There is a monster that eats your future. This story is about a man who willingly fed it every day. His name was David, and he was staring at two glowing screens in the sterile twilight of his corporate office. On the left was the code for Etherflow, his dream, a beautiful, revolutionary piece of software that he knew, with bone-deep certainty, could change everything. On the right was his empty rideshare app. The choice was simple. Go home, or build a future. From the living room of his apartment, which he could already picture in his mind, he heard a low, comforting hum. It was the monster. It was not a creature of fang and claw. It was a beast made of comfort, of soft cushions, glowing screens, and the greasy, instant satisfaction of takeout food. The monster was patient. It never roared, it only hummed, a siren song for the tired and the weak. Just for tonight, David whispered to himself, a familiar lie. I'm burned out. I'll start fresh tomorrow. He closed the laptop with his dream on it, the click echoing in the empty office like a cell door locking. On the ride home, he tried to bargain. He would order a salad, not a pizza. He would watch one episode, not a whole season. He would give the monster a snack, not a feast. But the monster's hunger was his own. By the time he walked through his door, the beast was ravenous. The pizza was already ordered. The game console was already awake, its controller a warm, welcoming weight in his hand. He was feeding it. And as he did, he could feel the edges of Etherflow, the sharp, brilliant lines of his future, growing dull and soft, being digested in the monster's gut. Then, his phone buzzed. It was a notification from a tech news site. Mark Jensen, former colleague of yours, has just secured $2 million in seed funding for his new app, Synapse. David's blood went cold. Synapse was Etherflow. Not the same, but close enough. A clumsy, corporate-friendly version of his elegant dream. Mark had taken the scraps of ideas David had shared over coffee and built a cage out of them. Suddenly, the choice was no longer about tonight. It was about now. The monster in his living room was no longer just eating his future, it was eating a future someone else was actively stealing. The news about Synapse should have been a fire under him. Instead, it was gasoline on a fire he could not control. The monster no longer hummed, it roared with a new voice, inadequacy. He's already won, it whispered between bites of pizza and the flash of on-screen explosions. You too late. You not good enough. Rest. It's over. At least here, in this room, you see a not fail. And David, paralyzed by the enormity of his stolen dream, obeyed. He fed the monster more than ever. He fed it his mornings, hitting the snooze button until panic was his only motivation. He fed it his work hours, scrolling through meaningless articles about Mark's success, each click a small, bitter offering. He fed it his friendships, ignoring calls and canceling plans to sit in the humming darkness. His life became a closed loop, a joyless job to pay for the apartment where the monster lived, and an apartment that served only to house the beast that was eating his life. The spiral tightened. A warning from his manager about missed deadlines. A concerned text from his sister, left unanswered for 3 days. The reflection in the mirror of a man he did not recognize, with tired eyes and a soft, undefined jawline. He was a ghost haunting the machinery of his own life. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. It was the official launch day for Synapse. David's entire social media feed was a monument to his failure. Pictures of Mark, smiling, shaking hands, standing on a stage. Articles praising his vision and discipline. David sat on his couch, the monster purring in his lap, and watched his dream become someone else's reality. That night, he received a calendar invitation from HR for the following morning. The subject line was blank. The monster had never felt so comforting, so safe. It was the only thing left. The meeting was short. Clinical. Words like restructuring and performance metrics were used. David was fired. He walked out of the building holding a cardboard box with a mug and a dying plant, feeling nothing. The shock had hollowed him out completely. He drove home in silence, the city light smearing across his windshield. He opened the door to his apartment, expecting the familiar, hungry hum of the monster. But there was nothing. Silence. The game console was dark. The television was a black mirror. The food delivery apps on his phone seemed pointless. He stood in the center of the living room, confused. He had brought the ultimate offering, a spectacular failure, a life in ruins. This should have been the monster's greatest feast. But the beast was gone. And in its terrifying absence, the shocking truth crashed down on him. The monster was not a separate entity. It was a parasite. It did not exist to be fed comfort, it fed on the tension between the men he was and the men he wanted to be. It was a creature that consumed potential. It feasted on the energy of his ambition, on the guilt of his procrastination, on the pressure of his deadlines. Now, there was no potential left to eat. His job was gone. His dream was stolen. There was no future for it to consume. David had not just been feeding a monster. The monster was the chemical reaction of his wasted life. And now that the ingredients were gone, it had vanished. He thought this was freedom. He thought this was the bottom. But the silence was not peace. It was a vacuum. He was free from the struggle, yes, but he was also free from purpose. And that was a hell he had never imagined. For 3 days, David drifted through the silent apartment. He did not eat. He barely slept. He was a ghost in his own tomb. On the 4th day, his laptop, the one with Etherflow on it, sent him a calendar notification. A self-set reminder from a year ago. Version 1.0 Alpha Test. Go change the world. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. He opened the machine. And there it was. The code. Elegant. Brilliant. Unfinished. And he saw it. The detail he had missed. The monster had not eaten his future. It had only eaten the path he thought he was supposed to take, the venture funding, the big launch, the rivalry with Mark. It had eaten the noise, but it had not touched the source. The code was still there. The idea was still pure. The epiphany struck him not like lightning, but like a slow, rising tide. He had been trying to starve the monster, to fight it. But you see, not starve a parasite that feeds on your own energy. You have to change its diet. He stood up, and for the first time in months, he did not think about what he should do. He just acted. He brewed a cup of coffee. He sat down. He wrote one line of code. And as he did, he felt a familiar pang, the low, humming desire for distraction. The monster was back. It was tiny, weak, a faint echo. It was hungry. But this time, David offered it something new. He finished the function he was writing. The code compiled without errors. A small, warm pulse of satisfaction went through him. He fed the monster that. He fed it the feeling of a small victory. He worked for an hour, then 2. Every bug he fixed, Every feature he completed was a meal. The monster began to change. Its hum was no longer a siren song of escape, but the low thrum of an engine. He was recoding the monster itself. A month later, David released Etherflow. Not with a press conference, but with a single post on a developer forum. He made it open source, free for anyone to use and build upon. He was not trying to beat Mark anymore. He was trying to build the world he imagined. The story does not end with him becoming a billionaire. It ends in his small apartment, late at night. The screen glows. The code flows. And in the quiet hum of the machine, he can feel a presence at his side. The monster is still there. It will always be there. He still feeds it every day. But now, he feeds it his progress. And instead of eating his future, it helps him build it.